Hello, everybody. Today I'll be talking about international custody disputes. This is a very complex topic because not a lot of people know about what to do when faced with the situation, or what steps to take, or what other cases have been involved in this. And I just want to shed some light, and hopefully, if you're going through something like this, I can help you out a little bit with this presentation. Little history on the subject. Prior to the Hague Abduction Convention, which I will tell you about in a little while, there was no true way to govern what happened with international child custody cases. If there was a divorce or dispute of custody and a parent took a child away to live in their home country, there were limited methods for returning a child to the rightful parent, or for ensuring the case was taken care of in the correct country's court system. This is really tough because if a father was in the military and had a child with a woman who was from Afghanistan, and the woman is claiming full custody and not allowing the children to go visit the father, or the father to have custody, how do you solve that? Or how do you figure out, or what court system do you go through? Do you go through the Afghanistan court system, or you go through the American court system? And it's a scary topic when you're actually faced with that reality. The Hague Abduction Convention, also known as the Multilateral Treaty, involved an expeditious method to return any child internationally abducted by a parent from one member country to another. And I use abducted with like quotes around it because it's not really abduction. The parent is taking the child where they rightfully think is theirs. It's not some outside source grabbing the child and hiding them away or holding them ransom, but it's the term they use. And so if you are the parent who has custody of children right now, or claiming custody of children, I don't want you to think you're a child abductor, but it's just a term that they use to describe it. The convention only applies to children under the age of 16. This comes into play when a child is 17, turning 18 or something. By that time, the child will be legally an adult, and they'll be able to decide where they want to live. So anything after 16 is really considered not really worth pursuing. The primary intention of the convention is to preserve whatever status quo or custody agreement was set before any alleged wrongful removal or retention, thereby deterring a parent from crossing international boundaries looking for a more sympathetic court. So this essentially means if a mother's from France and the father's from American, the mother can't take the children to France and claim custody there and have in the French court system if the children are American citizens, because it's not fair to the father to have to fight a court system in which he might not even speak the language. He's at quite a disadvantage. And currently the convention includes 94 countries. So the International Child Abduction Remedy Act goes hand in hand with the Hague Convention, as this is procedures to implement the Hague Convention. There are this, such as like using force to go in and take the child out, or how they need to get the child out of the country into the correct parent's hands, teaming with other countries in the Hague Convention to work on getting the children back. There are factors in which the Hague Convention and ICARA would not be able to be implemented, such as grave risk of harm, which a court may refuse to order the return of a wrongfully removed child if the respondent demonstrates by clear and convincing evidence, which is quoted, that there is grave risk that his or her return would expose the child to physical or psychological harm. This essentially means if a mother states that she should have full custody, however, it is undeniable that she has, a criminal record, or she is known to be violent, or the children have stated that she's violent and there's evidence to prove so, then even if the mother is correct that she deserves the custody, the court system may decide that, we're not returning the children to her because it's dangerous and it'll affect the well-being of the child, which is a universal, in law at least, it's a universal standard for all children law. It's the well-being of the child. So I'm going to go over some cases now that will help you provide some context into the working of these laws and how these acts come into play, and also maybe you'll be able to relate to what went on with these parents and how the outcomes affected their lives, and maybe how it affects yours. A father prevailed in a Supreme Court divorce and custody case after he was in the military and had a child with a woman from Scotland. He then moved back to the United States, and the wife had issues with alcohol abuse. and was arrested for domestic violence, which in turn alerted the government about her overstaying her visa. She was deported back to Scotland, and the child stayed with the father. After being deported, the wife launched a successful child custody action under the Hague Convention that ruled the child had to be deported back to Scotland with the mother. This was due to the fact that she was unable to come visit the child because she was deported and was no longer allowed access into the United States. After which, the father had the ability to come visit the child in Scotland, so this allowed both of them proper visitation time, although the father had to come a long way to come see his children, which he was unable to do due to his military schedule. The mother was a clear sufferer of alcohol abuse and was arrested for domestic violence. So her being granted the children to come to Scotland with her was the father wanted to fight it because he felt that it put the children in grave risk, and it shouldn't have been allowed. So the father argued that the case should be fought in United States courts, and eventually he won custody in the Supreme Court. And this case set a precedence for international cases being continued in the United States courts. The Supreme Court emphasized the importance of prompt return to children of wrongfully removed or retained in the country, and the importance of avoiding shuttling children around the world in custody proceedings, which if the children had to be shuffled back and forth with all this arguing and the visitation and all this, then it's going to affect their overall quality of life and their overall well-being, which I stated before, which isn't fair to them. And the children are what comes first in a custody case. Another case, an Indiana mother had a custody battle after she met the father of her children at the University of Arizona and got married. They started a family, and both of the children were born within the United States. The father was from Cyprus, and the family took an extended stay to visit Cyprus. The parents had marriage trouble. The mother returned to Indiana and filed for divorce and brought the children with her. The husband filed kidnapping charges against her, and the State Department recommended that she bring the children back to Cyprus. However, she went to an Indiana court system, and they granted the mother custody because the children were American citizens, while the Cyprus court granted the father custody as he went through their own court system. What's interesting is this case is yet to come to a resolution. However, when it does, it will set a precedent about what court system's decision outweighs the other. And that'll be a huge monumental decision, as you can't just utilize another court's decision to overpower another one, or vice versa. Maybe you can, and that's never been done before. The last bit I want to speak about is overseas visitation and custody issues. There's a lot of things involved in visitation already within the United States itself. So when you add thousands of miles in between a parent and their children, it gets tough. But many times one parent gets the short end of the stick with regards to visitation, because if the father gets granted custody in America and the mother lives in China, the mother then needs to either fly the children to China, but she can't do it all the time because that'll disrupt their quality of life, or she needs to fly to America to come see the children. And that takes a toll out of a paycheck, a wallet, or a quality of life for the mother, because she's spending her time flying to come see the children for whatever days she's granted. And it's tough to come to a fair balance. Or vice versa, the father may need to go to China to see the children, and he can't do that all the time if he has a job, he needs to support himself, and also any child support he may be paying. So it's a lot of issues involved with this, but there is solutions. And when you decide, make these decisions about custody, you have to keep in mind that you need to be able to pick a realistic situation that your family can deal with, especially involving the children, and they need to be able to have a good quality of life and see both parents, which is not the easiest thing to come to. But I hope that this presentation shed some light for anybody who may be involved in an international custody dispute. There have been cases that have prevailed for both sides, and there are still cases in the work, as this is a really complex issue, and there's going to be no solid answer for any one case. However, I believe every case can be decided, and things can be worked out to a mutual agreement that both benefits the parents and the children. Thank you.